The next session is Abilities Beyond Skills, Rethinking Capacity as Power, Practice, and Possibility. This session is co-hosted by Prava. Please join me in welcoming our esteemed panel. Bhavna Chopra, Head Stainless Academy, Jindal Stainless Limited. Kashyap Shah, Partner Bridgespan Group and Head of Bridgespan Non-Profit Development Program. Pooja Nanda, Head Women Economic Empowerment Mahindra Group. Shreya Sethi, Operating Partner, The Convergence Foundation. This session will be moderated by Ritika Kuna, CEO Prava. Over to you, Ritika.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and really welcome to this session, Abilities Beyond Skills. And we'll be talking about capacity building under the umbrella of livelihood and skilling. And I'd like to start with a short story. Are we up for a little story? Yes. And we would like to make it interactive. While we'll talk to the panelists, we'll also try to do 2 rounds of dialogue here and then open it up to your questions. So please feel free to use the QR code. That will be flashed and put in your questions, and we'll see as many as we can take. So, okay, going back to the story. So there was a professor who was very interested in Zen Buddhism. And so he said, okay, I want to know everything about, there is to learn about Zen Buddhism. So he read a lot of books, he wrote a lot of papers, he did a lot of paper presentations, and he came to a charcha like this, where there were very esteemed people. And in the conversation, he learned that if you want to really be like a master of Zen Buddhism, then you need to go and meet this monk who lives in this, on top of a hill, and he is really can do a master class on Zen Buddhism. So the professor says that, oh my God, I have to go and meet him. So he goes and he walks the journey, and it's a really a very difficult journey, climbing up the mountain, and finally he reaches the monastery where the monk is, and finally is able to meet the monk. And it's almost 4 p.m. in the evening by that time. So the professor introduces himself, and the monk asks him, would you like to have some tea? So the professor says, oh my God, I'm dying, I've done such a difficult journey, oh, tea would be lovely. So the monk said yes, and then the tea comes, and the professor talks about how many books he's read, and then the papers, the kind of papers he's done, the presentations he's made on Zen Buddhism, and that he's pursuing a PhD, and that he wants to go to so many more lands to learn about Zen Buddhism, and so much more that he has done in his past. And then suddenly he sees that the monk, suddenly he looks at the cup and he says, stop, the tea is spilling. The monk smiles and looks at him. What do you think the monk would have told the professor? Anybody? Anybody? There's no trick question. Whatever is coming to you, you can share. What do you think the monk would have told? Not the panelists. It's an audience question. Okay, yeah, please. Do you need the mic? Can you have the mic?
The monk is saying that you are accumulating knowledge, but you are not kind of internalizing or understanding the knowledge. So it's spilling over. It's audible.
Right. Okay. Very good. You wanted to also say, yeah, please.
Similar to that you have to empty yourself before you understand what I'm trying to do, because you're so full of the world and the knowledge that you have gained.
Right.
It's overselling some people.
Right. Yeah, both of you are right. So yeah, the monk said that, and therefore relevance to this panel, that I know all of us have a lot of experience, and all of us have a lot of work that we've done in the field of possibly capacity building and livelihoods and skilling. But here there are some very, very lovely looking and a lot of deep body of work that everybody has done. So the hope is that if we can empty our cups a little bit, so that we can go back after an hour with some new insight, some new knowledge that may emerge with whatever they're sharing here, or it can be an insight that you can really, from this listening, there's some thoughts that come. So yeah, so that's the tone that I wanted to set for the next, say, hour. Yeah. Yeah. So really, that's where, so let's manifest this intention that we are going to take away something for ourselves today as we hear all of us. Yeah. With that, I think also just placing that today at the panel, I'm just also trying to see from what lens are we looking at the sharing here. We know that there are so many people skilled, there's so many people placed, but we would like to go beyond the skilled, beyond skilling. I know the challenge of skilling is still there in India, because there's so much people to be skilled, and also degrees of marginalization, and there's so many levels of difficulty that still continues to be a real challenge. But we would like to go beyond skilling and really look at how does that skilling translate into agency, adaptability, resilience, and what is the role that maybe trainers, agency, organizations can play in ensuring that there is skilling and placement, but there is meaningful lives that we are impacting. So that's the tone with which we want to go forward. And having said that, I would straight delve into the panel, and I'll start with Bhavna, you. Bhavna, as the lead of Jindal Stainless Steel Academy, you work in a sector that really celebrates skill and technical mastery. Given your experience, what deeper and complementary capacities make people grow and stay?
Okay, thank you so much, and it's great to be here at Charcha, one of my dreams, and it's nice to be here at this side. So let me quickly get to the point, One, I wanted to clarify, we are not a CSR initiative, we are a business initiative. So the skilling that we do is in our business interest, and we are not apologetic about it. So the second thing I wanted to sort of get to, and we're investing money and effort in training and creating a blue-collar and white-collar workforce for the stainless steel ecosystem. And we are manufacturers of stainless steel coils. It's downstream where the products are made. And that's where we are investing resources to scale. So one of the target audiences for us is the individual fabricator, which you see on the roads. And they are the guys who are making gates, grills, window panes, furnitures for dhabas and kitchens and things like that. And that's where we want to move. And that's why we've devised this model. And that, it's not, so the core of it, you have to have technical skills. You have to know how to cut a sheet. You have to know how to weld a sheet. Have to know how to fabricate a sheet. So 70% of it is that. But now if you move into tier 2, tier 3 cities, what you're seeing is that there is a demand for a stainless steel gate, not because it's durable, that should be the real reason, but because it looks very nice. And that's the Indian psyche. But when the person goes to get a gate made, the guy on the road doesn't know how to make it. He doesn't know how to do a drawing. He doesn't know, and unfortunately it's still he. So I am going to continue to use he. So what we are now investing resources in, how do you create the technical skills, and then beyond the technical skills, how do you move into skills like using financial literacy. See, today's day and time, you can't say I have to teach somebody financial literacy. Thanks to UPI, thanks to the digital payment system, most people know how to use it. But how do they use it for their business? So what we're investing resources in, and how do you create that financial literacy? How do you create a digital footprint and an online payment system so as to establish credit history, and what that credit history means for his business. Second, how do you scale up? Third, how do you talk to the customer? Fourth, how do you draw a technical drawing and get it approved from the customer? Here we are talking at an individual to individual level. So, for example, there is no point in talking about AutoCAD and all these complicated systems over there. But what we need to tell him is ki paper, pen, or some digital tool which he can download and then create a drawing very quickly and satisfy the customer. So, and like when, I think what we also discussed, that it has to be holistic. So technical skills on its own doesn't mean anything. But unless it's coupled with these, and then the entire livelihood, and most importantly, and I think all of us need to understand this, is if there is not a what's in it for him, we have to be able to show him that he's going to earn more at the end of the day. So it will take 6 months, but he's going to start generating more income for himself and his family. So I think that's what our focus is. Our pilot begins in Odisha and in a couple of districts, and then so that's for the entrepreneurship and the livelihood, and we believe that will be sustainable. And yes, it does benefit us because we are manufacturers of stainless steel, which is made into a pipe and tube, and then which goes on, and then this guy starts consuming more. So but the objective is not to increase business. And there is no way that I can actually show it. As the head of the Stainless Academy, I cannot show that business has increased. So that's in a nutshell. Happy to answer any more questions.
Thanks. So lots there in terms of how do you couple the technical skills with financial literacy, digital footprint, scaling up, and customer relationships. And actually at Prava, we also had a very similar experience. We were working with Castrol on two-wheeler roadside mechanics on skilling. And one of the real ahas of the program was customer relationships, and how, like as two-wheeler mechanics, they were roadside motorcycle mechanics. So they had a real aha because because now women are also driving motorcycles. Now this guy didn't know how to talk to a woman. So when a man comes, he's able to service it effectively. But when a woman came, they were just shying away. So just the module on, say, gender relations and really how do you really address and talk really helped them. Also keeping simple things like calling the customer back, like your service, like the established players are doing, were really ahas for them. So yeah, resonating with Bhavna, what you're sharing based on our experience as well. Okay, let me bring Pooja, you in. Pooja, you head Kabil, India's first gender-intentional employment and learning platform. And I love how Kabil is thinking about not just placing women in jobs, but really building pathways for them. When you think about capacity building in that journey, what does it take to help women not just enter, but thrive in their workplace?
Thanks. So I'll start by saying that Kabil, of course, is a newer, we've been doing this for ages, in decades in Mahindra Group. Education and skilling has been kind of part of the DNA in the ecosystem. But Kabil has come to kind of a little bit more of structure in the last 2 years. And what we're trying to do is understand how to bridge the gap between education and employment through skilling. The skill gap that exists today is more because you're trying to, don't worry. You're trying to understand how to get women into the workforce. And doing that is going to obviously help in the economy. We all understand the barriers of entry and the challenges women face in entering the workforce. how do we do that with the ecosystem at large, and what are all the players in the ecosystem and the stakeholders that need to kind of partake in this? It's the corporates, it's the government, it's philanthropy. It's also a counseling of the girls, their families, of their recruiters, to understand infrastructure and policy that needs to go hand in hand for the retention of these women. So while they are also not sure of how to navigate the workforce, you can skill them, you can counsel them, but aspirational pathways that are today available to women who are traditionally male-dominated industries, etc. How do we navigate that? How do we help them navigate them? How do we make them understand that these are career pathways available to them? There are tools that we have built on the platform, mock interview skills, because confidence building is very, very important for them. Simulating what is a CV, what is the skill profile, what is it that you need to do to even present yourself into an interview or apply for a job. I often get told, Didi, hum ye nahi kar sakte. I said, kyun nahi kar sakte ho? Because they don't even know what it takes to kind of navigate from the start position to land that job. Landing the job is one thing, because creating the opportunities and linkages for the girl, once she is skilled, is also very important. And as we all know, a lot of girls enter the education and skilling ecosystem to just deter marriage or to kind of bypass some of their social cultural barriers at home. There is a lot of assessment and counseling that goes behind our program that enables a 96% retention rate as well. And I personally believe that women cannot be empowered if you don't sensitize the men. So there is an element of how you bring their families into the kind of what are the factories, the manufacturing, shop floors. We're an auto business. We're trying to kind of walk the talk and say, how do you bring women into manufacturing and into shop floors? We have an all-women shop floor that paints XUV 700 cars, etc. And how do you then serve as an influence to other corporates and other recruiters to be mindful of gender inclusion, gender-inclusive practices, and retain the women, because the first 3 months are very hard for women anyway. So the Kabil platform has come to fruition as a scaling initiative, and we're calling it a movement, because I truly believe you can only do that through collaboration and through bringing all the players in the ecosystem together and the stakeholders to build upon and amplify what we've all achieved and got to, and grow that through the best practices, challenges, lessons learned. Otherwise, we're all kind of going to be stuck at that level. So how do you really achieve scale? And everyone talks about systematic change and transformative impact. You can't do that until all the players in the ecosystem are actually enabled and sensitized as well towards that.
Lovely. Thanks so much. Yeah, and it's quite insightful to just see that the moment women come in the picture in terms of how the ecosystem comes along with it very, very naturally, because yeah, it's women without the other stakeholders, family, really society, the social setup. You need to work with all of, many of our learnings are that when you're working with women, you need to make it effective, you have to be working with all, and possibly I've been very influenced by the gender thematic that I've been working or engaging in the last 25 years, and we've worked with, and this was the early learning from gender, that if you don't engage men, I think it's at some point of time you hit a roadblock. So really nice that in the livelihood space, we are really taking the lessons from the gender thematic and working around it in that sense. So yeah, thank you, Pooja, for bringing out those points. And yeah, I recently bought a Mahindra car, and I was very surprised to see an all-women shop floor. I've never seen a car showroom, a fancy car showroom with all women, from the desk to showing to the mechanical explanation.
We also have an all-women resort now in Goa.
All-women resort? Okay, let's all plan to go there. So yeah, it was very eye-opening for me, and I said, oh my God, wow. So yeah, thank you for making all this happen.
Actually, can I add one point to what you just said? Because it's very important for people to understand that these girls think a lot of these jobs are very heavy lifting industrial machinery, and they all want to be in BPOs and tech jobs, and we have to kind of really make them understand the tech, if the tech sector is shrinking, what is a BPO job, what is your digital skills, you want to be working in a call center or support, but these are also digital jobs, they're no longer heavy lifting. Logistics is a growth sector, hospitality is a growth sector, healthcare, they don't know. You ask any of these girls, they're still stuck in the stereotypes of stitching, teacher banna hai, nurse banna hai. So I think part of the responsibility and accountability of the ecosystem is also to sensitize and make them aware of the aspirations that they could achieve and the jobs that are available to them in the careers. And that's why we built this tool that we call Pathfinder, where a girl can navigate what are the jobs available and how do you get there.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, let's move from really individuals who are learning, and we are seeing that individuals through such great efforts are learning and growing in the livelihood and skilling space. But what about the organization they join or engage in? And what happens to that capacity that is being built at the individual level when they enter an organization which maybe doesn't promote learning and growth, and what can we do from that at the organization level to make sure that when these very Kabil people are entering organizations are also willing and have set their systems and processes and have built their capacity to welcome that. And that's where I come to Kashyap, you. And I'd like to share some data that Britspan does lovely reports and studies. So bringing some data back to you, Kashyap. So this is a 2022 report by Dasra and Britspan, which found that less than 10% of philanthropic funding in India is directed towards organizational and people capacity. Most of it still goes to program delivery. Whereas in contrast, organizations that consistently invest in leadership and culture report up to 30 to 40% higher retention rates and significantly stronger community trust. So, Kashyap, just coming to you, and really as a partner at Britspan and heading BNDP, and that you've been engaging and mentoring many non-profits on strategy and leadership, what do organizations often fail to see about their capacity needs until it's too late?
Thanks, Ritika. BNDP stands for Britspan Non-Profit Development Program. I always call that out because it's generally very easy. A lot of people come in and say, oh, so you do this BDNP or BNP. So just to kind of call that out. But you know, one thing that still amazes me after having spent more than a decade in the sector is that I see so many great organizations focused on changing the country, changing the world, focused on building a better tomorrow, and which is great. But very seldom organization thinking about building their own capacity. So if you talk to them about what are you doing, let's say for skilling, what are you doing, let's say for any other health or education that they are working in, they will have super crisp answers. This is what we are doing. This is what we think is good for them. This is what this program resulted into. And then when you ask this question that, so what are you doing for your own capacity building? I think the answer is almost like, yeah, we don't get time. You know, there's so much work to do. And as a result, there have been some data and statistics which has not been very good to hear, right? In India today, only 18% of organizations invest adequately in their own capacity building. Out of the balance 82%, I would say only 5 to 10% invest in any kind of capacity building. So effectively, people are not thinking adequately about capacity building. That's proven by data. This is after the other side, right? The other side is those who have invested adequately in capacity building through multiple programs, effectively are able to scale 4x in terms of their reach, in terms of their work, with an increase of 2x in the budget. So you see the kind of leverage that they're able to create, that my budget has increased 2x, but I've been able to scale 4x. So the data is for all to understand and see in terms of that how capacity building or investing in capacity building helps. But still we are really, really not there. So then the question comes, why is it so? Or why is this kind of happening, right? And I think to me, there are kind of 2 to 3 key reasons of why this is happening. I think one is capacity building is always been important but never urgent. So it will never give you that instant gratification that a program work gives, right? So it's always about, or for example, if you say, oh, I don't have a human resource and payroll, it will be very much visible to you. So you will think of, oh, let me hire someone, or this program, I need to expand in this geography, let me do that. But pure play capacity building is something that will be at the backdrop unless and until it becomes a big disaster at some point. So I think one is that it is boring, but boring is good. And it does not lead to instant gratification. So I think that's one definite area. The other issue, very sadly, is that most non-profit organizations or even social enterprises, we are focused on consuming talent and not cultivating talent. I mean, just think about it, right? I mean, we all are consumers of talent within our organization, but are we investing enough? Are we spending enough time on cultivating talent? And I think that is also one major mindset shift which is required, and it's only the leadership which will have to role model this shift. It is that same talent that you start expecting a lot, but then when you look back, when I talk to a lot of CEOs, it's very evident that they have never thought about cultivating the talent. It's all about, oh, where can I hire the best talent? Let me see what work can be done, and that's it. Lastly, on this, I feel the third reason is that we are generally quite enchanted by the symptoms and not the root cause. I'll tell you innumerable cases where people kind of discuss and come and say, you know, oh, do you do fundraising? Which of course we have a module on fundraising, but they will say, I really need help on fundraising. I really need to raise funds. I really need to grow. And you know, we have so much of impact and I need to do fundraising. And so the simplistic answer is that I need to build capacity of fundraising, right? And because that's the symptom. But actually, when you talk with them, when you understand it more deeply, you realize that they were not able to raise funds because they didn't have a semblance of strategy in place. So whenever they were going to funder, so we kind of asked them the simple question that why do you think a funder is saying no to you, right? And they find it difficult to articulate. We asked this question, why 5 times. And eventually, either it's that the strategy is all over the place, or they're not able to articulate the right strategy. So effectively, at that point, the org had to invest in revisiting their strategy, but all they're thinking is fundraising, because that has that glamour attached to it in some ways, or that is the immediate task, right? I'll be held accountable. I need to pay salaries of people, of my team. So I think those are some of the reasons why we feel that investment in capacity building is not happening. I mean, in most cases, we miss the trees for the woods.
Thanks. I'll come to you, Shreya. In your opinion, what can make a stronger case for investing in invisible capacities like leadership, resilience, well-being, etc., knowing that there is a group of 25 CSOs that you have incubated? Last I was telling her in the beginning, last I knew Convergence Foundation had 13, and suddenly today she told me that actually now 25. So yeah, what's helping you build a case for, because I know that you guys invest a lot in building capacities of the organization. So what's helping you build that case that we can all learn from?
Yes, no, thank you, Ritika. So Convergence Foundation is a philanthropic venture philanthropy, and we really do believe in identifying areas that are under-penetrated and underserved, and incubating nonprofits to really push that cause. The larger North Star is per capita GDP improvement for India through its current 2,800 to about 14,000, and really what are the enablers that will get us there, and can we identify those areas and set up nonprofits? So we haven't incubated all 25. Today we support 25, but yes, we've incubated and started about 15 of our own, and some of them we support other nonprofits. I think resonated a lot with what Kashyap said. I think these are some of the things, but Kashyap, I also want to say, I realize this is not a non-profit issue. I think if you look at things like the startup ecosystem, etc., it's really similar. It's this, push to kind of achieve results, move forward, where we kind of ignore some of the things that they burst. So I think one of the things is it's also kind of almost normal human culture, and it's not a non-profit problem, and we probably shouldn't take it all on us as a problem. retaining. So I think what makes organizations successful is, I think, to a large extent, culture. I think the difference between maybe an entrepreneurship or a startup and nonprofit is we expect people to survive on passion, right? I think we expect people to come in and saying, oh, you're passionate about it and everything else goes out of the window. And it's not true. We have to give them the other things. We have to give them career pathways. We have to show them what the future looks like, where can they grow, and I don't see those open conversations, right? And I think that is some of the things when we've seen successful nonprofits. If I really look across our portfolio, the ones that have grown successfully, that have good culture, have high retention, have visible external facing ambassadors, right? If you start really thinking of the talent that you have as ambassadors for the nonprofits, they think about these things, right? They have conversations on what does career growth path look, where do you want to get there? It might not be with your organization. 5-year goal might be, I want to study in a good university, or I might want to be in a different organization, but can I create that pathway for you? What opportunities can I give to you that gets you there? What can I unlock within my ecosystem? So I think it's a lot of softer stuff as well, not always structured training programs, but I think the first thing is let's have conversations around that, right? Let's set aside times. I think when I sit around with people and I say, do you even know the names of, your colleagues, spouses or kids? They don't, right? You get into a room and you start saying work, work, work. Can we put aside time to have a dinner, to, go out somewhere, have a conversation? And I would say let's start with conversation.
Thank you. Quite insightful stuff in terms of really how do you build a culture in organizations that promotes open conversations and also doesn't look down upon personal relationships being built among colleagues, because there can be we want to hide a lot of things when we are interacting with colleagues, and how can we be, because ultimately we carry our whole selves. At Prava we say we carry our whole selves into wherever we are going. So there is no personal and political in the personal or professional. So therefore, it's just important if even in our skilling programs, we can address the whole person rather than just a part of that person which is employable or can be made employable. And that was one of our biggest learning when we worked with, there's an organization that works with migrant laborers. And they have a life skills academy in Rajasthan, and they were working on migration for many years. And when Prava came into the being, and we are primarily a life capacities building organization, and we said, what can we offer? And we said, okay, let's try. And we believe in experimentation, that kuch nahi hoga to kuch seekh lenge. So that's how it started. And the real aha was that when Prava started training those migrant laborers, real aha for them was that for the first time somebody is looking at us as young people, because all migrant laborers were young. But when the agency who was working with migrant laborers looked at them only as migrants, so was addressing them as, okay, migrant. And then suddenly there's another agency that comes in and looks at them as young people, and there's a whole new dimension that opens up, and whole set of needs gets addressed. As a young person, I have a lot more needs or different needs than I have as a migrant laborer. So then if we offer a holistic package, and therefore the invitation for technical agencies and what Shreya said, the softer aspects of agencies, multiple agencies coming together, and what Kashyap also said and what Pooja also said, collaboration, because we each have our own strengths. And for one organization to maybe understand everything is not possible. So let's do whoever is good at whatever, and can combine our forces to address a holistic need that people entering the skilling sector have. I think we may be able to, that could be a nice solution and to try out or experiment with. So yeah, just stopping here in terms of round 1 and little shifting gears to round 2. And in round 1, we've really understood or maybe established in that sense that a lot of skilling work that we are doing, it's a holistic package, like we just said, which includes customer relationships, expanding to larger capacities, stakeholders, and also working on softer aspects, and really cut across to really have a lot more collaboration going. And therefore, in round 2, I think one would like to really say, okay, here some of us are converted sitting in this room. Now, how do we really expand our circle of influence and get more people to invest in capacity building? Because capacity building is still, like Kashyap said, it's an emerging sector. There's a lot more, some of us who are working in this field, there's a lot more push that has to happen for people to really see a value in it. And there's a lot of data that's emerging. Still, we are a long way to go. And therefore, really bringing you, Kashyap, in with saying that what shifts you think are needed for funders and organizations to view capacity building as a shared strategic investment that grows collective strength and not competition.
Yeah, I think before just going into the what.
And if I can request, if we can take a minute each,
Yeah.
maybe.
So I'll try to be quick, but if we can just spend maybe 30 seconds on the why of it, right? Why do we need it? I mean, if you just zoom out and look at the macro picture, we have around 200,000 non-profits, approx, give and take, working on the social side of things. I'm not counting the political ones, the religious ones. And this number is again not set in stone. It came from a Supreme Court judgment. So that's where I'm quoting it from. Now within this, if you look at the non-profit development sector, effectively there are 8 to 9 critical areas: education, health, climate, justice, and so on and so forth. I'm sure everyone, if you think about this, perhaps the answer will be in unison, is that we actually only talk about 3, 4, 5, or at best 7 to 8 non-profits in each of these areas. I mean, if you see most funding is going to this 4, 5 non-profits, people are only talking largely about them in some context or the other. Then the question is, for a country as big as India, is that enough? According to us, and we did some maths, of course, due to time, I'm not getting into that, but at least we need 30 to 35 non-profits, like great champion non-profits in each of these critical sectors, right? And that's not happening because we are not investing enough in the capacity of our non-profit. So our market or the non-profit, if I use the analogy of a Nifty 500, the non-profit sector is not as deep as it should be for it to be vibrant, right? So that's the why very quickly. Now, in terms of what can we do on the solutioning, I think number one, it should be part of the funder discourse as well. So when a funder is giving funds, the talk is largely about program and how the program is doing and what are the impact goals. But I have seldom seen funders asking about, so what are you doing to ensure that you will remain relevant and fit even 5 years down the line, right? And those discourse is never part of a funder conversation, which will make a non-profit leader realize that this is equally important for a funder to fund. Second, very quickly, is about funders think of organization development as a slice of a grant and not a grant in itself. So effectively, if I'm giving 100 rupees to a non-profit, okay, out of that, maybe perhaps you can use some amount. And non-profits are largely emerging from starvation cycle, so they are very, very picky about where they spend that unrestricted money. There are already pulls and pressures on that unrestricted money or overheads, and that's where things get stuck. On the non-profit side, again, very quickly, I think one is ability to pay is there, which of course we can't do much about, but we also see willingness to pay. I think non-profit sector per se is used to getting things pro bono, getting things at lower cost, getting things free, which there's no free lunch at the end of the day, right? So it's about how do you kind of have a willingness to pay as well. Second is, I think most important is ability to give time and dedicate time. Nothing happens overnight. So in so many conversations where CEO says, you know, your program is so good, this is so good, my team can join in. And then I quietly say, but no, it will require you also to come in. And that's where the, oh, is it? Oh, let me think now. So, you know, effectively, the question is how do you spend enough time to kind of think through some of these domains. Yes, I can go on and on, but yeah.
Thanks. So, Shreya, coming to you. In the field of systems design and incubating a lot of NPOs that you've been doing, what does thriving organizations look like that invest in their own capacity building?
Yeah, and I think I would just want to maybe pick up a little bit on what Kashyap said. I think, Kashyap, you mentioned funding multiple times, right? And it really does seem to be that's the crux. And I think that's where we have a different perspective, right? Where we say we give you patient capital and it's fairly unrestricted, right? So for 3 years, you build the capacity of the organization. You get your theory of change right, you build your team, you invest in culture without the pressure of fundraising and programmatic thinking to say where your next grant is coming. Taking that pressure off, I think leads to a huge difference, right? Because for the first 3 years, you can just invest your time in getting what you want to do right, getting your right team, building, a lot of these processes and system. And at that point of time, then you are ready to kind of expand your funding base. So it really gets down to taking off pressure from fundraising and giving patient capital. So I think a lot of my call to others would be, not even fund organizational capacity separate, but if we can do slightly more unrestricted grants and patient capital and not push for outcomes on a 6-monthly basis, we'll see leaders invest automatically in organizational capacity building is my belief.
So I'm hoping that there are many donors and funders in this room who can take this call to action or accept this call to action for patient capital and unrestricted capital. And since I'm on the other side in that sense, I think we will very, very welcome. And there are very few, there are a handful who are doing that, but I think we need a lot more. Coming to you, Pooja, I think at Kabul, the emphasis on holistic development is evident. How do you see organizational capacity building and culture shaping spaces where women can lead, take ownership, and drive innovation in the livelihood and skilling ecosystem?
I'll actually build upon what Shreya and Kashyap have both said, and actually Bridgespan has been a very key strategic partner for us in even setting the foundation. Two parts to my answer. One is that we don't see ourselves as funders, we see ourselves as co-creators and partners and collaborators. And it is very, very important to understand that you cannot benefit or empower women if you do not enable all the players in the ecosystem. So all the enablers along the pathway, teachers, NGOs, that is all part of capacity building. It's not long-term and sustainable if the framework is not set in place. And coming from a professional background of 2 decades of governance, risk and compliance, I will go back to where I'm very kind of stuck on the fact that without governance and framework, and very stringent rigor and processes in place, you cannot scale. You cannot build capacity, and even NGOs are not sustainable because they are only dependent as long as the fund is coming in. It becomes transactional. How do you really scale will only come when the foundation and the end goal and the vision is there, which is also what we did in partnership with Bridgespan. But how do you deliver and execute to that? And coming into this role, one of my biggest learnings, and I actually paused the program for a good part of the year, which is why we've had delays, because I said, let's reset what it means to actually hit long-term sustainability and success, and how do you achieve the outcomes that Shreya is talking about. It's not, of course, management wants to see numbers and wants to see impact immediately. These are not things you can see immediate impact on. And we hit on the platform as well. We hit 55 employers like right away. We hit 45,000 downloads. But then what next? It's not going to be sustainable. And I truly believe that governance and the setting of for me, the biggest learning was that the end user, the beneficiary, is the women getting empowered, and that's not the case. I think you have to empower everyone along the way, and for that, it's very important to have governance and the right frameworks in place.
So that's a great quote coming in that from Pooja, that we don't need to only think about, because especially in the skilling and livelihood sector, we think about the last mile young person or woman that we're working with, but I guess true empowerment is when all in the journey can be empowered or think and invest in their own capacity building. And I will catch one more thing that, Pooja, you said, because I think we can't iterate it enough, that the importance of pausing and rethinking and re-strategizing, and if it needs to change everything, maybe be open to whatever emerges out of that process.
You have to have processes in place, and I think most NGOs struggle with that. Yeah. That is where people like us come in to set that rigor and discipline and governance, and you have to have those checks and balances, because otherwise you will not be able to amplify.
Thank you. Okay, so last comments, and then we'll see if we can take one question from the audience. Bhavna, if skills make for visible outcomes and capacity builds invisible strength, how do we convince funders to value what they can't always immediately measure? So patient capital, like she said. So if and we know that capacity building, it's a long haul. So what are your thoughts on that?
So quickly, and I'll speak from the experience. I've been in skills for about 14, 15 years, since 2009 now, 16 years. But like say right now what's working, unfortunately the reality of the situation is that the funder does want to see a number on, and we all come from those backgrounds because we're talking to a business person who's invested so many years, so they like to see a number. Now, for people who are working on this side and who are actually implementing, I think it's for us now to get together and build a narrative around how the number has to be shown. The fact is that you have to show a number. But the narrative is like, so for example, and I'll talk about Stainless Academy, I have my promoter and he's the one who's investing the cash, right? And every month he reviews the Stainless Academy performance, and he says, ये तो ठीक है, पर मुझे कितना मिल रहा है? How much am I getting? So the first things first, you say that, okay, you have to be patient and let me figure out a story around it. The second thing what we did is we worked now on a tool called the social return on investment, the SROI. So we've mapped the training interventions objectives, then we mapped it to the intended outcomes, then we've mapped it to what should be the impact indicators on the ground, and actually then done a pilot study around them. So for every 1 rupee invested, how much is the person earning more, the person on the ground, not the money that you've done. But I've spent about like a good part of a year saying that we're talking about the SROI, I cannot give you an ROI because that's not fair. Yeah. And that narrative and that changing of the mind, I've spent a lot of energy on. And now that the SROI has been established in their mind, and that's what I say, we have to do this side.
Yeah.
And so it's nice to see for every 1 rupee that I invested, the individual fabricator is actually earning 2.38 times of it. Kitna acha hai. Now whatever that means, right? Yeah. So that's what we do.
So the last thoughts from the panel is, I guess we need to be more creative in being able to take the both sets of needs along. And if we are creative enough, I guess we can convince people who are putting the check or giving the check to be able to really see the value in that. And it's possible to hold both ends of the spectrum. Requires little more thinking out of the box in that sense. Unfortunately, we have time? Oh, wow, that's good. I thought that there is a big monitor with a big timer going on here, and it turned to 00, so I was saying, oh my God, I would love to have some questions from the audience. So we have 10 more minutes, so we can take, and I see a gentleman raising their hands here. Let's take, who else can, can somebody pass the mic? And if you want to address it to a particular panelist, you can.
The question is actually more to Shreya and Kashyap. And firstly, thank you to Bhavnaji for this social return on investment. So the question really is, we keep calling it patient capital. I was there in the seminar that was going on downstairs as well. Is it really about patient capital, or is it about enabling capital? Patient capital is to say, I don't know when you're going to ever do anything. I'm going to be patient. But what I've been seeing over the last couple of sessions also is that people who are controlling the funds they're looking at outcome-based funding on the one hand. The other hand, they also want to micromanage. They want to say 5% money for administration, this, that. They want to control that as well. So, and then they say, why do you think small? So, there's a whole stifling of innovation that happens when you do it like this. So, the question really is, do we really understand our roles in this entire ecosystem? I think we are playing more like us versus them. They are the non-profits, we are the funders.
Okay, we got the question. I think let's keep the question short
sorry
we
about
can
that.
take more and we can hear the responses. You got the essence.
Yes, so I don't think we're, at least I can speak for TCF, we are not either outcome-based or micromanagers. We actually, what we would like to believe is enabling capital, where we say for 3 years, this is, you know, we are giving you capital to build out your team and build out your theory of change, and it's not at all reviewed on any, you know, actual spending that happens. So it's really patient capital to say, go out and do what we hope you will achieve and do.
I did have to complete the question. 30 more seconds, if you allow me.
Okay.
Can you be very...
It's really about, like I said, you know, funders versus non-profits. It's like, are you playing the role of governance, management versus operational leaders? So I think that's where the confusion is. If you play the role of...
Got it.
So, I mean, I would say it's a little bit of what, you know, Bhavna said, it's co-creation, and even Pooja said, right, it's co-creation. So we would like to co-create, co-design, be thought partners, be very active with the nonprofit, but the real thinking is how do you enable the nonprofit to grow and succeed?
I think just some quick thoughts. I think in terms of the nomenclature, first of all, I think there is restricted giving, unrestricted giving, which is more about if I'm giving you 100 rupees, out of unrestricted is that you can use the 100 as you wish. Restricted is you can use only 5 rupees on so-and-so, but you have to use 80 rupees on so-and-so. So that's unrestricted, restricted. Patient capital is used in the sense where there are non-profits, let's say, who has a systems-based approach. Systems-based approach it's a decadal themes, right? So basically they take a lot of time to deliver outcomes. So effectively when I say patient capital, it means that I understand that you will not be able to show me an output, perhaps an outcome in a year or 2 years, but I am betting on this theme, I'm betting on you as an organization, and we feel that over 5 years, 10 years, we will be able to reach there. So that's the patient capital in terms of terminology. In terms of us versus them dynamic, I think I would say funders are understanding. There are mature set of funders who understand what ails non-profit. But if we say there is no power dynamic, that would be untrue as well. There is always going to be a power dynamic, and it's not true of our sector, it's true of any sector. The moment you give 1 rupee to anyone, there is going to be a power dynamic. So I think that's the reality.
Thanks, Kashyap. There's some questions that people have put.
So can we take it outside?
Okay, so we will, all 4 of them will be joining us for tea at the break. So feel free to catch any of them and engage in a conversation. And if they'll be kind enough to continue the conversation, you can inspire them if you'd like to. Before we close the panel, I'd like to end with a short exercise. It'll take only 1 minute. And because we've been sitting for whatever, some 40, 45 minutes, can we stand up for that activity? All of us, we can do that together. Inviting everybody to just stand up. Yeah, everybody to stand up. And if you can hold my mic, please, Megha. Okay, so, yeah. So what we need to do is extend our arms. All of us, please extend our arms as I'm doing you to do. And then just cross your arms like you would normally do. Like you normally do. Are we there? Yeah? And then just see, when you're crossing your arms as you normally do, is your right on your left or your left on your right? Just notice. Yeah, see? Notice which one is on top and which is under. Done? Okay. Now what we'll do is, again, open your arms and then try and do it the other way around. So like mine was like this, now the left should be on top and the right should be under it. Simple? Okay, how are we feeling? Uncomfortable? Anybody else? How are we feeling? Audience, how are we feeling? Not true to ourselves, okay. Anybody else? Took some time, yeah. Different, yeah, so simple thing. So just the parting thought one wanted to leave with is that it's uncomfortable, it is different, but that's where learning happens. So as we started the session with saying that hopefully through this course of the last 1 hour, we would have got something that we would like, something different to try, which will make us uncomfortable, which will be different. But let's try and do that because that will maybe open some learning and some new stuff for ourselves. So just want to leave with that, and thank you so much for joining.